Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. Yeah.
Raj. Now Raj has himself muted. Yeah, I don't know what you're doing over there, Raj. Raj.
Can you hear me?
Yes, unfortunately, we can hear you.
Very funny. Sorry about that. My connection's a little choppy. I'm still at the house, but I'm in another room. Mom and Dad should be here any minute now, so I had to make some adjustments.
I was just thinking you look a little uglier than usual, but that's fine.
I don't even like the lighting back here, but I'll be all right. Yeah. I'll make it.
It's all good. Nobody's here for you tonight, though, Raj. You have a very special guest in the house tonight, so
yes.
You're just here. You're just the window dressing. So, fun episode tonight. We got to talk a little Ole Miss. Even though we don't play them anymore, there's still a team to talk about, and I guess it kind of saved our bacon when stuff kind of went sideways. Jumped in to help out at the last minute. So, Raj,
we appreciate it.
Yeah. So this guest, Raj, one of the few people in the world that is in the top 5 speed dials for both Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban. That's how often they talk to him. Yep,
okay.
Yep. You remember that land shark stuff that they were doing on Ole Miss? He's the one that got rid of it.
How could I forget
it? And his exact words were, "What are we doing?" when he got rid of it.
Right.
So the only reason he doesn't have a statue up is because they're still trying to decide if it's going to be at Ole Miss or at University of Alabama. So they're still arguing back and forth.
I can't wait.
So
wait.
Yeah, whenever they figure that out, he's getting his own statue. What's up, Daniel Petty? How are you doing tonight, sir?
Daniel Petty in the building.
I'm excited to be here, gents. I'm not going to lie. I have lived a life as a double agent here at the Bama Standard. I am a Bama grad, so it's not like I'm a secret. And tonight it looks like I'm in the most Bama place I could be.
I know.
But tonight, and a lot of the fans know that deep in the crevices of my soul, I'm a rebel. And tonight you guys have given me a forum to talk a little Ole Miss football. So I appreciate you guys having me on. So I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you cleared it up from the jump so that when people start asking questions, they know, hey, we were here from the beginning. We got the backstory. We're good.
Yeah. Well, that's this Bama guy talking. What is going on?
Yeah.
Well, let's say hi to a couple of people real quick. What's up, Jay Bate? He's ready for it already.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Troublemaker. Randy, what's up, man? Good evening to you.
Evening, Randy. Evening, Jay.
And Carol, another one of the 2 or 3 best Bulldog fans that we know? 4. We know 4 good ones.
We know a couple of them out there.
Yeah.
Got a lot of Alpha coming down the track tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And Cat Pool, the Alpha Pools are in the house. And Random, I know Kicking Out at 2 is also on right now, so I know a lot of people are doing double duty, trying to flip back and forth. Yep. What's up, Cat? What's up, Mia? Mia probably has the hardest job in the world trying to keep track of JT and trying to keep him supplied with Mountain Dew.
Keeping that Mountain Dew IV and JT.
Yes. Yep. This is a Roll Miss.
There you go. Roll Miss. I like that.
I like the sound of that. Nice one,
better than Old Piss. I hear that a
lot. So you kind of have to start with what's up, E? One of our best guys, huge NBA guy. We got some stuff to talk about, E. So definitely hit you up soon.
Finals been fire.
Yeah.
Last year with Ole Miss, it felt like them making the playoffs was a fait accompli, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't. What did you think about last, especially getting over the Georgia hump, and then still falling a little bit short of making it? What did you think about last year with them?
It's one of those things where if you're an Ole Miss fan, that side of me is where it gets weird. I've seen how Alabama does it, so it even makes it harder, and I've kissed it. But I don't know. It's one of those, if you didn't do it that year, when are you going to do it? And to put it into context, and I'm not sure people really understand, because if you don't look at the numbers of Ole Miss, you kind of look at your own team. Ole Miss led the SEC in offensive scoring average and defensive scoring average. That means they average the most points and average giving up the least points. If you do both those things, accomplish both those teams, most of those teams not only win the SEC, they win the national title.
Right.
And then you look, they lose 3 games by 13 points. And you're like, crap, but they beat Georgia. You get over the Georgia hump. That's the hump to win the title, right? Yeah. That was Kiffin alluded to it several times. The year before, they won 10 games in the regular season, lost 2. They would have been in the playoffs, but they walked off the field after losing to Georgia saying we could have played them 100 times and we were never in the game because they were so much more physical. We're going to retool our team to look like that. And then you beat them and still find a way to narrowly miss the playoffs or not. And in a year where you're like, well, it's even expanded. This is the year Ole Miss can make the playoffs. They don't have to be in the top or whatever. And you still find a way to miss it. So, yeah, it starts to burn the question, like, if you couldn't do it in the draft. They had 7 guys drafted, an NFL record at Ole Miss, or a record for Ole Miss and NFL draftees. If you're not going to do it with that team, what team are you going to do it with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you about that. Yeah, no, and that's.
I mean, that's so. Yeah, I was in the swamp. And I'll be honest, I'm an idiot. Apparently, Ole Miss fans shouldn't be overconfident about anything, but Ole Miss has a pretty good record going into the swamp, and that's one again you had it on the line. And Bama fans can. This is where the Bama side can relate. You go to Norman, Oklahoma, on the line against a team that you're better than, a team that doesn't have that great of a record, and all of a sudden you're playing really ugly, and it just doesn't make sense. So the question is, how much does Lane's influence affect the team and his personality affect the team? Because it seems like the Kentucky game's a great example. They kind of came out over
the one that jumps out to me, honestly.
I mean, you want to go back. That's the game that you're always going to scratch your head. Now you've got this field goal kicker who makes a 60-yarder at some point during the year, misses a 47-yarder to put it in OT, but it was one of those games where you start looking, you break an 80-yard touchdown run, but your guy dives and the ball goes to the back of the end zone. They get it on the 20, so you don't get those points. And as the game went on, stuff like that kept happening. And then it's just those are the times where you question, can Lane do it week in and week out? Does this team take on his identity so much so that it can show up in a game? Like he can win the big game, but he can't consistently win them all. Right. And that's where he's got to prove that, man. He does at some point got to prove that he can put it all together. But again, I say that, a year earlier, he's 10-2. He's in the playoffs. So I don't know. Maybe it was just bad luck. The margin between, a championship team and barely missing is razor thin. It's a field goal. I mean, he wasn't out there kicking that, he had Caden Davis, a guy that's going to the NFL. He's out there to kick a 47-yard field goal. Should be a chip shot. A game against Kentucky. You're at home. He misses it,
Yeah. That's what was weird to me. And then that stretch right there, lost to Kentucky, blow out South Carolina, overtime loss to LSU. That's just like a weird stretch where your whole season turns, but not something I saw at all with the Kentucky loss. So
No.
And then it's like you said earlier, man, how many chances do you really get? I know we keep expanding, but sometimes you have to take advantage of your best shot. And because the question was asked about Kiffin, you and I had this discussion, months ago? And, you basically told me I was an idiot and wrong, but that's fine. Is Kiffin ever going to be on the hot seat at Ole Miss, or is it pretty much his job till whenever he wants it?
No, he can. It's whatever he wants to do. I mean, the big joke is. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. I got to remove myself for a second, man. I'll be back in a minute. Give me 1 sec. Sorry about that, Josh.
Hey, Raj. No, he can. Look, this is where you got to have some self-actualization and realize who you are. Ole Miss's history isn't that great. Prior to Kiffin, they had 3 10-win seasons in the history of their program. He's had 3 in the last 4 years. I mean, at this point, what's the running joke is what's Ole Miss's mascot? Is it I've got the Rebel Bear Shark hat, and hell, now if you go to Oxford, you can go in their store and you can buy Lane Kiffin's dog. That's pretty much the Labrador. His his dog has become the mascot. And that's why I want a lot of, and we'll get to that. I'll play that into I think something you're going to bring up later about him staying. But no, I don't, there's given Ole Miss's history, even if he has a couple of just clunker years, he's going to have the grace he wouldn't have at a place like Bama or LSU or Georgia.
Yeah. Did you believe any of the smoke behind Kiffin to possibly Alabama ever?
No, because he wanted it. I think Kiffin would crawl through glass to get back to Tuscaloosa. I know enough from people to know that wasn't, and it wasn't Saban, but I just know it wasn't going to be a possibility. There was Alabama's trenched in some old ways and some old monies and powers that be, and there's some I think there were some ruffled feathers that couldn't be undone in that regard. So
that's what I thought too.
Now I do think there was a real possibility that he was heading to Auburn.
I think we talked about that too. Yeah,
more than people ever want to believe. I think that Kiffin was heading to Auburn, and it's one of those moments that you could probably write a short story, a book about all the things that transpired for him not to go to Auburn, and one of them was Hugh Freeze leaking it to the press. So,
do you think Kiffin can win a national championship in Ole Miss?
Yes. And this, well,
you can't backtrack. That was so confident, though. That was so confident.
Because Ole Miss has been able to break their glass ceiling in this era of football with NIL, with transfer portal, with the way they've been able to embrace it and not look down their nose at it like some institutions hoping that it would go away. Right. However, with this new NCAA settlement, some of the ruling changes, I'm not Nostradamus, but I'm smart enough to see that kind of the winds had changed, that these rulings could hurt a program like Ole Miss. So I don't know if this window of the Wild West was their opportunity to do it.
Right.
But it did show that they can. Look, they were 10-2, like I said, a year ago, and beat Penn State in the Peach Bowl. And then the next year, they're right on the doorstep of the playoffs. You win 10 games, you're in the playoffs. You've got a chance now. So they've got a chance to get in it. I think he can. I do question with the constant changes and the changes that are coming down the pipe with the NCAA settlement, and if they really do adhere to the name, image, and likeness, and if it comes to corporations and stuff like that, how smaller market programs are going to be able to survive. So I don't know, man. I know that's a long-winded, deep version of it, but I do feel like this era has shown Ole Miss that their glass ceiling is no longer what it used to be, which was 9-10 wins in a Cotton Bowl.
Right. No, and I agree with you. I think the landscape has changed. And I think even if, Ohio State has kind of shown it too. Sometimes if you just go for it one good year, and not to say that it'll just be 1 year for Ohio State, but if you go for it one good year and put the right pieces together.
And that's a big question.
Get in.
A lot of people thought Ole Miss, I felt like Ole Miss was the proverbial poker table last year and said, we're all in. We're going to get Walter.
I agree with that.
Princely, Umami Allen. We're getting all these defensive linemen. And it didn't happen. So I don't know, man. That's a great question.
Yeah. And I also like when we were looking at the schedule really set up for them last year.
It did.
Just some inexplicable stuff. Like you can always excuse a loss to LSU. That's fine. In Florida, they had figured more things out later in the year by the time.
And losing in the swamp, we're okay there. Losing at home to Kentucky, who went Ole Miss and O in the SEC, that's the one you're always gonna look back and say, how the hell did that happen?
Yep. Let's say hello to a couple people real quick. We got hers in there. He said, the Ole Miss game, yep. And they had talked about it, man. They, like you said earlier, too, that they were ready for him for a whole year. They were getting ready for that game.
Ole Miss was built their team to beat Georgia for that game, to beat Georgia. Yeah. And I'll readily admit that. And they were locked in on that Saturday. And look, there were some wheels were starting to come off for Georgia at that time. But look, Ole Miss spotted them a touchdown, and that was the only touchdown Georgia got on that day. That was a sound beatdown of Ole Miss. That's the one. Again, the games. That's you ask. Yeah, I'll always scratch my head because you go to South Carolina and they could have played for 8 more quarters and South Carolina wasn't scoring on that defense.
Right.
They shut down Georgia, but then you go to Baton Rouge and do what you do. It's just that's the question. It's a Kiffin because boy, the talent was definitely there. This year's gonna hurt Ole Miss fans for a while. I do believe that.
I agree. What's up? Where's our buddy Brian? Just said hello. What's up? Oklahoma fan in the house. And so
Boomer. I think,
He's
man,
excited.
Boomer could be one of the surprise teams of the season this year, man.
I think they're definitely
Mateer and that group get together. Watch out for Boomer. They're going to have a hell of a defensive line.
Brian, I can't remember if you said Ohio, if you had Oklahoma at 9-3 or 10-2. I think it was one of those. And congrats to your team for getting another tough win. And now you might not know how. Yeah, well, Indiana doesn't go away, so that's the thing. But maybe no Halliburton for the next.
Well, Halliburton, man, that's the thing. I felt like it was going to go 7 because this Pacers team is feisty as hell. But Halliburton, the last person I expected to disappear, disappeared last night.
Yep. So, why is JT made? That seems like such a random game.
Is that the phantom pass interference where the LSU player pulled down the Alabama receiver and intercepted it, and there was no call?
I don't remember.
You know why, Mia? Because your husband has an IV of Mountain Dew, and at some point it just clicks in like, I gotta watch this, and that's what we're gonna watch.
Yep.
I love JT.
JT,
beautiful people that I will get to see in Dothan in a couple of weeks. I will be looking to see you, Miss Mia. Looking forward.
Yeah, and I think Petty's on the same page with you, Brian. That it would.
Yeah, it would have to be a Hugh Freeze type moment where he's, hooking up with the babysitter, doesn't know how to use a burner phone while going to massage parlors. He'd have to Hugh Freeze the hell out of it to screw up Oxford at this point.
I agree. And yeah, Randy, I agree. You get into the playoffs and you just never know what's going to happen.
That's what the game has changed for programs like Ole Miss. You asked me this 5 years ago. No, Ole Miss doesn't have a chance to win a national title. Now get in the playoffs, and all bets are off.
Yep. This was always one of everybody's questions. Will he get in his own way when it comes down to it?
He actually, go back and watch this season. He changed the game with that. He didn't go for it as much on 4th down. And I know Bama didn't play Ole Miss, and that's their last memory of him still doing that dumb shit. He cut back on that greatly this year. Now he still does it, and he's still going to do it more than the average Bear. But he was better about kicking the field goal this year, ironically.
I always thought that.
Still didn't win it. And still didn't get it done.
I mean, I felt like I said earlier, they were one of the locks to make it when you looked at their team and the schedule at the beginning. I was like, Ole Miss is in.
Yep, so. I kind of felt that way as well. And then Kentucky happened. I'm like, you knew better. You knew better. But you know that just doesn't happen for that team.
If I had told you that Kentucky was going to score more on Ole Miss than South Carolina and Georgia combined, you'd have told me I was crazy.
Well, and that Kentucky had a magical 9-win, 10-win season, and Kentucky. God bless America. Vandergriff.
And Brian, we'll get to your other question just a second. He's got Oklahoma at 9-3 on the year.
9-3. Okay. All right. Well, I tell you, man, the problem for Oklahoma, and I'll be honest, is the meat grinder of a schedule doesn't go away. Texas got you got the short end of the straw on the early SEC schedule, and all it does from last year's flip. Everybody talked about Florida's schedule. Oklahoma's was just as nasty, but it was just spread out. And I think Oklahoma's got a run where they play Texas, Ole Miss, goes to South Carolina, and then goes to Bryant-Denny. God, man, that's a meat grinder. So, I think they got the team to do it. It's just the schedule is going to be hell for the guys.
Yep.
I'm getting all over the place.
Johnson pick in OT and back to the end zone. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, was that year? Is that? Yeah, that was, man.
Why are you watching that game?
I know a dude
that seems so random.
VCRs got broke that night. That's how long that game was ago.
All right, Brian, your question was one of our topic points. So first, were you surprised Jaxon Dart slid back into the first round in the NFL draft?
I didn't think he was a first rounder until the offseason happened and he started if you read the tea leaves, he kicked ass at all the places that quarterbacks that have kind of risen did at the Senior Bowl, in all the meetings, doing all the things that the NFL teams like to see and answering the questions that quarterbacks that come from a Kiffin system have. He answered all of them. So, I was, because I didn't expect it. But then, like I said, you read the tea leaves, it was kind of pointing to that happening. So,
Right. Yep, I agree. So, Austin Simmons, who we all remember for one memorable drive against Georgia, led him to a touchdown. And And I haven't heard it or seen anything unless I'm wrong there that he will be the guy taking over. Although, what do you guys have, a quarterback room of like 4 guys out there now because you've added so much? But
at least 7 guys that I couldn't name one of them from like every small school in the country. I don't know what the hell. It's like we got to have practice guys, and I guess I got to have a backup, and we really don't like our backups, and I don't know. If you put a gun in my head and made me name the Ole Miss quarterback room, I'd be in trouble.
No, I had to look it up because I've got the depth chart pulled up, and I was like, who are all these? Because I knew Simmons.
Like
right?
the movie Major League. Who are these effing guys?
That was wild for me. So what's your early assessment? Like I said, we all remember we're your kind of knee-jerk reaction. Oh, he's going to be great. What do you honestly think about Simmons and how he's going to perform this year?
It's one of those where I'm kind of having to temper expectations because when you replace a guy, Jaxon Dart was a hell of a football player. He won a lot of games for Ole Miss. He is
maybe one of the most underrated quarterbacks.
Has to be, and one of the tougher guys, and was just a leader for your program, and took had a lot of adversity while he was at Ole Miss that people didn't even realize. And so, look, man, you don't just replace that. You don't replace those. Don't come very often, guys that are that type of leader. But the whole time he was there, and look, Austin Simmons graduated 2 years early. I mean, he finished high school as a 16-year-old. His dad, if you've been paying attention to the quotes, is out of that damn Earl Woods mentality. Like, yeah, we don't do Christmas. We don't do breaks. We play sports and do school. And look, man, so the kid graduates at 16. He's a left-hander that was pitching as a freshman for Ole Miss, though, in 96. So, I mean, he's a phenom both at football and baseball. And then the rumblings through the practices were, hey, there's this kid that's, 17 years old, and he's soaking up everything he can from Jaxon Dart. And the next year you hear, hey, man, this kid's got his arms. He's got a higher ceiling athletically than Dart. And then next thing you hear, this may be the most talented quarterback Kiffin's ever had. And Kiffin's done well with guys that aren't the greatest. I mean, he's kind of taken, he took a running back named Blake Sims and had him throw for 3,400 yards. So Kiffin's been able to do things. And when you're hearing rumblings that this is the best he's had, it's hard not to start to get excited because look what he did with Jaxon Dart. Look what he did with Matt Corral. He took Matt Corral from just a straight wild card throwing interceptions to a very good SEC quarterback and a 10-win quarterback. And then you hear the talent of this. He's 6'4". There's a lot of Tua looks to this kid. I hate to say it. He looks like there's a 6'4" Tua look. And then again, he comes in at a point where Jaxon Dart's gotten hurt, throws an interception, and Georgia goes up 7-0. You've lost to Kentucky, and all of a sudden you're looking at the scoreboard and like, we put all this money into this team. Now our quarterback's limping to the locker room, and here comes a freshman against Georgia's defense, and all he does is just drive them down the field for the touchdown. Everybody's kind of looking around like, hold on, that doesn't happen. Usually you bring your backup in, he hands it off until you can get your quarterback shot back up on the field and hope you can manage a few series.
You mean like Arch Manning?
Yeah, you don't drive down the field on the best defense in college football for the past couple of years and do what he did. So, yeah, it's one of those. It's almost because of what you're losing in Dart, but what you've heard, what you know of the kid's talent, what you've seen. And I told you, I mentioned it earlier. I was at that game in the Swamp, and I'm the old man that gets there early and warmed up and gets into all that stuff. And I'm watching Dart and Simmons throw. And I tapped my kid on the shoulder and I said, watch them throw right now. They're like, man, that Simmons, his ball's going quicker, Dad. And that's the kid version of it. I was like, yeah, he's got some zip on it.
Yeah.
It's a long-winded saying, replacing a legend is going to be tough. And I say a legend. I mean, a legend in Ole Miss, right? But the talent's there to do it. And the talent's there to actually surpass it. He's got a higher ceiling than Jaxon Dart. He's got – and you don't never know with injuries and the craziness of sports. So, throw all those caveats out and throw that out and the talent's there for this kid, to be honest. And I'm going to say it, he's top 10 draft talent ceiling wise. He's that good.
Rob, you're just talking about, do you remember when, yeah, well, we're just talking about Simmons. We kind of moved past Kiffin. We're talking a little about Simmons and replacing Dart. Biggest points, Dart was very underrated, I think, at Ole Miss. And Simmons, everyone remembers the drive.
Is Simmons the lefty?
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that came in against Georgia.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, because Herb and I talked about him during the Georgia game. I said, this kid, he actually looks pretty good. That was the first time I'd seen him actually play, but he looked good, had a good zip on the arm. He had some nice size to him, was reading the field pretty well. So from what I saw from that short period of time during that brief point of brevity, he looked pretty good to me. So I like him.
Well, and he followed my lead. He graduated college at the age of 19. So, I mean, he's already done with school.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
No, he's graduated Ole Miss. He's 19 years old.
Good grief.
Let that sink in. College graduate.
Yeah.
He's 2 years from drinking, but he's got a degree. Yeah. I was in college for 8 years.
A lot of people were in college for 8 years. They call them doctors.
Yeah, I tell Alabama that, and they beg to differ. They said, "Sir, it's about an application, not time in. It's merit based, apparently.
It's either a doctor or Cam Reddish. So it just depends on who you are."
Or Baker Mazzara, one of those guys.
Or whoever it is, yeah.
To answer Brian's question, that's the one me and my daughter have circled, that if I can get to a road game this year, that's the one I want to go to. Because I will say this, I've heard nothing but I remember when Alabama went out and did the home series with Oklahoma in the early 2000s. And everybody came back from all my Alabama buddies that went over to Norman said literally the best trip they've ever been to. The Oklahoma fans are absolutely some of the most classy folks, respectable, respect the game. I know they were excited to come to Oxford and see the Grove this year. They came in swarms. I hope like heck I can get out to Norman, Brian.
So
Herb and I can attest to we can attest to that. I mean, of course, going into Norman, our hopes were high for the game and everything like that. But
y'all went this year, I forgot.
Yeah. Prior to the game, with the tailgating atmosphere, which was hosted by Brian and his family, we had a great time. Everybody was very, very respectful, very, very nice, polite. Even after the game, people were coming up to say,
"Hey, they're really nice
asking us if we're okay." Of course, they were elated.
I know. They were.
You want some of our good bourbon because we're breaking it out tonight.
They were apologizing to us, and everything was cool. But no, man, if you go up there, we'll make sure you get in touch with Brian and stuff and figure it out. But the tailgating was awesome, man. We had a good time. Yeah. Unfortunately, the outcome of the game didn't go the way we thought it would. But hey,
true story. The only people that tailgate were being rude to each other. Yeah, one lady decided to take a stance, and she was cussing out everybody. I don't give an F about you. I don't give an F about your opinion. Here's what I think.
I was just like,
that moment at the tailgate where you've had enough of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as being nice to us, they were fine. There was plenty of hydration being handed out at at the thing. So crowd was cool. And then like after the show, we're walking back to get our ride or whatever. And there's a guy standing there, and these ladies are coming up, and they're like, "We did it. They're hugging him." And I got all my Alabama stuff on. There's Oklahoma.
We didn't do anything.
"Hey man, I want a hug also." He said, "Come on, bring it in, hug us, bring us in the Airbnb, give us a couple beers, say, all right, man, y'all have a safe trip home." So they're good folks there. They're good folks, for sure. That was a good trip.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I hope to make that one soon. I want to go out to Norman for a game.
Yeah. What is on your? This usually is a question we ask late to the end, but what is on your kind of short list, top 2 or 3 places to get to for a game?
Ooh, wow.
We usually do that for questions of death, but that seems like a good time now.
South Bend, and I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but I am a fan of history. I want to get to South Bend. God, I know I'm gonna miss one they're gonna say it, and I'm like, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? But I'd like to go to the Big House at Michigan. I think that would be a cool place to see a game. God, what am I missing? I know there's one that's sticking out there that's like, duh. Oh, now I will say this. I want to be, and this is the 90s metalhead in me. Yeah, I want to go to Lane Stadium for a night game and hear Enter Sandman entrance.
Would you go there just for that and then leave?
Yeah, and then bounce out. Be like Virginia Tech playing Iowa State, all the ugliest damn colors you can imagine, and then some powder blue asshole in the middle just bouncing up and down.
I didn't realize this part because I thought when she started arguing it was about Venables and keeping around. So
that's what I thought too. That's what I thought too.
Well, so is she? look, because now look, Oklahoma to Alabama is blue blood as blue blood gets, but so is Oklahoma. They are one of the winningest programs ever. Was the argument from because she didn't agree with storming their field, or she just thought y'all are idiots for wanting to do it?
I thought the question was posed like we were asking him about Venables and how much longer he had at the program or whatever. And it seems like from everyone at the tailgate, the reactions were mixed. Some people said they like him, some people weren't, and then she just went off about it. So I was just looking at her. I'm like, hey, just chill out. We're out of
basically.
We don't want to catch any strays here, so let them have it. So
okay. Big House and Rocky Top, yep.
I have it, Rocky Top, that's one. And I have it, I'm shocking. I've been to most SEC stadiums, been to Baton Rouge, been to the Swamp. I have not been to Rocky Top.
Yeah. Raj and I need to start traveling now.
Like a big workout truck
behind.
convention.
I would love to go to that Ohio State. We have a home and away with Ohio State, 27 and 28, I believe.
Yep.
Would love to go to
We're getting to
for a
that.
game.
She thought it was beneath us. Well, welcome to the Bama. You would get along well with all of Alabama.
Yeah, with the Venables stuff. Yeah, that's what I thought what they were getting into was Venables. There was a lot of mixed opinion on him. And still, probably still is.
He's on the hot seat. He had this. It better work with this offensive coordinator and Mateer. If it don't, And again, man, they're not. Dude had a freshman quarterback, and his top 4 receivers go down last year, and people were ready to run him off on a rail. Like, God, man, there's nuance to this stuff, people. But whatever.
And I saw one who said talk football. I don't know if that's a question or a statement.
Ask me a question. We can get back. What do you want me? I can dive deep into Ole Miss.
No, I mean, we've been talking football.
How do you replace those 4 defensive linemen? I mean, you got Princely, Umami. Okay, sorry.
What's up, Zach?
Appreciate it.
Daniel, this means you get no tacos. It's just for me and Raj. So appreciate you, Zach. Thank you, sir.
My truck in high school was raspberry, and they called it the pink taco. True story.
Oh my gosh.
You know what story I want you to tell everybody? How do you have an Ole Miss helmet as one of your backgrounds when you're usually there?
Do what?
An Ole Miss helmet? Did you steal somebody's Ole Miss helmet?
No, I wish I had it here so I could tell that story. No, in 2000, it was 2000 when Ole Miss came to Tuscaloosa. I was living on Queen City, and that was the year, right? It was 2000 coming off the year Bama won the SEC, and everybody thought they were going to go big, and they go up at UCLA, and then all the wheels came off, and they only won 3 games. Well, one of them was Ole Miss, and Deuce McAllister got hurt. Bama won like 42-6 that night, but a buddy of mine was in the student section, Sigma Chi guy, and he had a pledge with him. And they were down towards the field, and he saw the gate was open, and he said, "We're going on the field." So that was 2002. Okay, yeah, that's right. It was 2002. My bad. Thank you. 2000. Yeah, God, man. Thank you, Bama Standard.
You think they've heard this story a couple of times, so they're right?
Well, Dad, and they know the brown whiskey makes my memory fuzzy, and he helps me out with the details. But anyway, long story short, so he says, "We're going on this field." And the pledge, like, how we're going to do this. And the first thing he notices is a box sitting there. He said, "Well, grab that box, and we're just going to walk out there and look official." So they walk out on the field, and all the players are out shaking hands, and Bama fan players like, "Hey, we kicked your ass again. That's what we did to Ole Miss." And he saw an Ole Miss helmet sitting there. God, Deuce was my dude. You know why he was called Deuce and wore 22? It's for David Palmer, by the way. They saw an Ole Miss helmet and a football, like one of the footballs with Ole Miss emblazoned on it, and just stuck it in the box and walked right off the field. And that's the one thing.
How do you do that?
I don't know. So I got back. We go out partying, and I get back to my house, and I guess this is the impact I had of being an Ole Miss fan at Alabama, one of the weirdest humans on planet Earth.
Yeah.
There was enough love for me that I show up that night, the football and the helmet are sitting on my dresser, and I'm like, how the hell did they get there? Nobody knew. Like, people knew. Yeah. But the people that knew didn't know to tell me, and I didn't know to ask the right people. I literally went 20 years and was on a podcast with the Sigma Chi guy, and he was telling the story of the Ole Miss helmet that they stole, and he didn't remember what happened to it. It got passed around the house that night and ended up on me, and I'm like, dude, I've got it. Long, crazy story of how I learned. I really spent 20 years thinking, because you know how people set up tailgates and they set up helmets. Yeah. I thought one of my buddies had literally just stole a helmet off a tailgate, and that asshole that had someone's helmet that had been stolen, like straight up crappy people. But I couldn't return it. Didn't like I knew who to give it back to. So yes, I have a cool Ole Miss helmet that I actually got from Bryant-Denny Stadium from Alabama fans. My Alabama Ole Miss weirdness just never
continues to intersect.
Yeah. Yep. Never ceases to intersect.
I love it, man. I always love that story. I think I've heard it several times, but
that story is it again. The fact that I went 20 years not knowing how like it really came to be, and then finding out that it was, they walked on the field and just walked off with it like it was. That's the thing. Just look like you belong, and you do.
Raj,
yeah.
Raj, did you get Raj? If you
no, we're planning. We're planning now.
We'll figure something out. We have to get a similar story going so we can kind of mirror this one. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's a challenge now. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
All right, so talk little Kiffin, talk little Simmons at quarterback. Could be a big year for him. Last thought on that before we go on. Are you in favor of how much Ole Miss uses the transfer portal each year versus recruiting classes?
Yeah. I mean, when you're Ole Miss, you can't – and look, I know people don't like it, and that's why I said earlier about the glass ceiling. It changed for Ole Miss. They can't do it the traditional way. It's not like Ole Miss can go out recruit Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and LSU. And look, Mississippi is a weird dynamic. It's a small state, but per capita produces more NFL players than any other state in the country. And it's routinely cherry-picked for that reason. Alabama, through the history, has gone and cherry-picked defensive linemen and just great players from Mississippi. LSU, I mean, the coast of Mississippi might as well be Louisiana because they've owned the Gulf Coast through most of history. So, yeah, I mean, Ole Miss couldn't do it the way Bama could by just building class after class the way Kirby did it at Georgia. They had to dive into the portal, and it's still a gamble. It cost them 1 year. What was the year? The in between the 10-win seasons, they had a 9-win because the dynamic didn't work. And Kiffin realized that year he leaned into the talent side of the portal and completely ignored the human aspect and realize you got also the personalities got to mesh as well. You can't just throw a bunch of parts in there and it all worked. So the next year he started looking at guys like Trey Amos, Trey Harris from La Tech, guys that were portal guys, but they had 2 or 3 years, or they were actually program guys looking to buy in. And so it's a constant gamble because at the end of the day, does Walter Nolan turn on the light switch that he never turned on at Texas A&M? Well, he did for you. So, but on the flip side, Ole Miss doesn't have the ability to be as good as they have been the last 4 years without it, because they just don't, they don't have the ability to do it traditional ways like the bigger program. So yeah, people hate it. And I hate it in some ways, but as an Ole Miss fan, I'm like, man, I'm supposed to hate this, and my team is better than they've ever been. We're now competitive with Georgia, and that's okay. How can you hate the portal? In 1 year, you get just blitzed by Georgia. It's 52-27. It's not even a close game. Right. And most times you walk off that field and say, well, I've got to go recruit offensive linemen. That's going to take 2 or 3 years for those. That's a 2 or 3 year process to catch up with Georgia. Did it in 1 year because of the transfer portal. When it works, hell yeah, man, it gives programs like Ole Miss a chance. So it's absolutely a huge fan of the way Lane, they call him the portal king for a reason.
And you got to adjust to the times, man. I feel like if you're not using the portal nowadays, you're going to fall back. And then we know, Dabo Swinney was kind of vocal about it at first, but obviously his program turned out a little bit last year and looking like they're going to have a good season this year. So, yeah, I mean, I don't fault anybody for using it. Use it to your advantage and see what you can do. I don't think anybody could use the portal to just completely change your team, but just add additions and add depth if necessary. So,
and you can – and Mississippi State's a great example right down the road. Their program, they disengaged and said, oh, well, this isn't going to last. They didn't get into it. They didn't start building NIL stuff because they felt like it was just cheating come true and that it would all go away in a year or two and they let it sit for a year or two. And now they're below Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt Mississippi State has now become the worst football program in the SEC, and there was never a time. And I'm an Ole Miss guy, but there was never a time where you could say Mississippi State wasn't better than Vanderbilt or Kentucky. Agreed. And now it's not even close, and that's because they didn't. It's like you said, Roger, dead on. And look, man, Saban hurt Bama, and that was one of the things that people in this transition year, and you got to give DeBoer so much damn credit for. Saban insulated Bama from the portal to a degree because of his reputation and his ability to get kids in the NFL, and it's now a common term. But there was the Saban discount, the Alabama discount. You didn't have to put into the portal what other programs were because the promise of the NFL was very real. It wasn't just a sales pitch. And because of that, for a year or two, Bama didn't have to build that infrastructure into the NIL and into the portal. So when Saban did pull the plug and players hopped in it was like, holy shit, Yeah. But also that's a testament to the power of the University of Alabama. They've got the love, the means, and the ability to regroup very quickly and put it together. And you're seeing the fruits of that right now and what DeBoer's able to build in recruiting. Yeah. But you guys are dead on, man. You either adapt in this new world, and it's about to change again drastically, or you get passed by.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. And I don't, like I said, I throw out that question, but I don't fault them at all. Now, I'm even looking at the rankings right now. Mississippi and Mississippi State have 63 transfer, incoming transfers. That's the way of the world. But like you said, it does enable you to catch up quicker where you fall behind in other areas. And Dion, he's become the poster child for it. But he even said, like, look, man, I'm either recruiting a high school kid and I think I know what I got, or I'm recruiting a guy who's played a year and I actually saw exactly what I'm getting. And I can plug him in next year. So,
and I can spend all this time on this high school kid. And if he doesn't play right away, he hops in the portal anyway, and I've wasted time and resources.
Yep. And Carol, I think that's how Alabama and Georgia and several of the top teams that have been not a huge portal class, but like, hey, we need 6 needs. We're going to get 6 guys. So I think both.
And look, that comes to benefactor of being those programs that have been able to build the natural ways through recruiting classes, like Alabama was with Saban, and Kirby's been able to do, the same blueprint. It's a hell of a luxury, and some programs have it. That's why you see some teams fully lean into it, like Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and programs like that, and other ones like Bama and Georgia just pick and choose the Isaiah Hortons of the world that you need to just give that compliment.
Right. The only bad part about those is when you get 6 and like 3 of them don't work out, then it kind of looks bad. But I think we're still waiting for Malik Benson, I think, to hit the field at some point here.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that name. So
most of us did, because that was one of those.
It's going to work out for Robbie Ashford at one of these 27.
What about TJ Finley? And he,
I was just about to mention Finley, because last time I think he was at Tulane, but he got into some trouble there. So I don't know where he is, but it seems like he just goes somewhere new every year until something works out. But I'm like, at some point you have to realize, like, it's not the schools or whatever. Maybe you have to take a look in the mirror and realize maybe you got to work on yourself a little bit. Not just what you're doing on the field, but maybe off the field too, and make some adjustments there. But
they got to be giving them something to get there. So if it's a couple, $100,000 or whatever, even on the low end, you got to.
Okay, what do you think? Yeah, what do you think Tulane gave him? What was their speech to him? Just like, look, dude, you're kind of running out of options here. We can use you. We don't necessarily need you, but
what kind of speech is this? The worst recruitment speech of all time.
Hey, bro,
how did you ask Sydney to marry you? Hey, you know what? You don't have a whole lot of other options.
I told her.
I said, got a ring.
Look at me. I said, look at me. I've got other options. If you want to be the greatest of all time, you can marry me. Take it or leave it. She's not here. I can say that right now. She's not here. Yeah.
Oh, we're definitely cutting that out and putting that out there, though. This will be an edit for tomorrow. To save your butt, though, we're gonna jump into checking out the schedule.
Woo! That's what I told you before. I've done this for Bama, and I haven't really done the circle. It's going to be fun experiment.
Yeah, going through it. That's fun. That just means we're getting some good, honest reactions, and that's how we always like it. So we're assuming we're going to skip the first game.
Yeah. The Rebs are going to take Georgia State at Kentucky.
Are you surprised to have an SEC game as your second game?
Glad. Because I do think that hurt Ole Miss last year, and that's one thing people, and like, you can look down your nose at it all you want. Ole Miss's first 4 games were Georgia State, Mercer, West Alabama School for the Blind, and one more sad sap like Wake Forest. They were averaging
Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern in that order.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
and I'm not saying this facetiously. They didn't play a competitive snap of football in either of those 4 games. Not one. Yeah. I remember even when they played Wake Forest, there was a point where I remember Walter Nolan grabbing their left guard, and I'm not kidding, and throwing the kid like a rag doll. It wasn't. So they played 4 games, not one competitive snap, walked into Kentucky thinking we're scoring 70 a game. And all of a sudden, Kentucky's got some SEC dudes. You look at that cornerback, they got some dudes that play in the NFL. They're not the best, but when you go from 5 weeks of non-competitive football, that's what caught them. So a long-winded answer to that is I love Kentucky being the second game. Ole Miss needs to get slapped before game 5 when you've sleptwalked through September. And again, this is one I don't think Kiffin will let his bravado come in. He's going to be pissed off. I think Ole Miss takes care of Kentucky there. That was long-winded. I said, well, I spent way too much time on a Kentucky game. But yes, excited.
I mean, well, given last year, though, it's all acceptable. It's all acceptable. So I get it. So,
but I forgot Calzada is Kentucky's QB because I was thinking about last year. I know they had a really, really good defense without much of an offense last year. But now Zach Calzada's there. He's made a few stops. And then they have of course, they have Kendrick Law. I don't know how much they'll utilize him. But it'll be interesting to see what Kentucky does this year.
I mean, once you've made your 3rd stop as a quarterback, I have to start questioning. Like you said, I don't
agreed.
Yeah, I think Cam Ward may be one of the few that made that work, but like for 90% of them,
your second transfer, okay, the circumstances, coaching changes. Hey, man, there's just 2 studs, and you were one of the other ones. You get to that 3rd one, then I'm starting to look at you.
Yeah, like you're just making it a career of just how long can I hang around? I get it. So you go to Kentucky, you get revenge. Then you got the Arkansas, Tulane, LSU.
Ooh, LSU. I'll probably be up there for that one. This is going to be an interesting one because I do think, Arkansas is always a dangerous spot for Ole Miss. That's a low-key, always a tight game for the 2. But you get them coming home. Taylor Green's a good quarterback. I do think they get them Tulane, like you said. LSU's where it gets tricky, man. Brian Kelly's – they don't have – long fuses in Baton Rouge, and they haven't liked what they've seen on the defense. This is one that if Ole Miss pops them, the wheels could come off in Baton Rouge real quick. Yeah. And Ole Miss is getting them at home. They don't have to deal with the crazy-ass voodoo and refs that they dealt with in Baton Rouge last year. But look, man, Nussmeier and that offense is the real deal. Nick Anderson transfer from Oklahoma, Aaron Anderson, Barry and Brown, you talk about Kentucky, the speed burner. So they're going to have an offense. It's just a question, what do they have on defense?
Right.
But the other question is, what is Ole Miss at this point? Look, I can't look at this through the lens of what Ole Miss had last year. You're replacing 4 defensive linemen that went to the NFL and J.J. Pegues, Princely Umami Alien, Jared Ivey's in the league with his 8 sacks, and then Walter Nolan, who was just look, man. People question if you watch the film on that kid. He was probably one of the most disruptive, if not the most disruptive defensive linemen in college football last year. You're replacing all that. So I would say lean Ole Miss's favor, but, man, you can't just give them this. This is a toss-up at LSU. The LSU game's a toss-up for the Rebs.
All right. Brian's already predicting. Now, Brian, I'll put yours up at the end of his. J-Bake, are you saying Brian's 3 losses and you're adding 2 more? And I hope you're not adding Tulane and Citadel.
LSU, Georgia.
So J-Bake, he said 8-5. So I'm assuming, LSU, Georgia, OU.
It can't be Tulane and Citadel. So
you think maybe he's picking South Carolina?
Nice as LSU, Georgia, and Oklahoma.
No, I'm talking about.
No, he's looking at J-Bake. J-Bake says
8-5. Yeah,
8-5,
which means I guess you got to a bowl game and lost it, or
so I guess he's thinking. I guess he's giving Florida and
South Carolina
at the South Carolina game.
Have a good night, Lady Alpha. Appreciate you.
Good night, Lady Alpha. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming LSU, South Carolina. I don't know.
So you're undefeated at the LSU game. If you had to pick today without knowing anything, you haven't seen Simmons all year, you know they got Nuss. What are you putting on that one for today if we put you on the spot?
Ole Miss is going to win. Ole Miss.
And then Washington State?
Ole Miss.
So now you get to Georgia. What are you, 6-0?
This is where it gets tricky for Ole Miss. And
and by the way, this is your Georgia and Oklahoma people getting ready for you.
Yeah, Georgia and at Oklahoma.
Yeah, you put Oklahoma on an island, and I think Ole Miss beats Oklahoma. You put Oklahoma the week after going to Athens, and then you go to Norman for the first time. And again, at this point, Oklahoma hadn't gone all the way through the meat grinder. They are coming off Texas. I don't know if it's the game right before off arrival. That's a tough damn spot. Ole Miss could drop 2 real quick to Georgia and Oklahoma. I mean, that Georgia game could cost you 2. And that's not a knock saying Oklahoma couldn't win it on their own. Hell, in a vacuum, Oklahoma might beat Ole Miss. So yeah, you lose to Georgia, get beat up, and go to Norman. That's a tough damn spot for the Rebels. I see them. I'm gonna say losses on both those.
Yeah. For Georgia, Texas is later in the year. So Georgia goes to Auburn, then they play Ole Miss, then they have a bye week before they play Florida.
So Ole Miss gets the break, and I tell you what, I think Auburn. People aren't gonna like it. I think Auburn might pop Georgia this year.
Ooh.
Friends don't let friends pick Auburn.
I know.
Jay Bake saying Tulane and Citadel B. That's funny. Okay. I mean, hey, man, crazier things have happened.
All right. So Georgia, Oklahoma, you get through there. Then you get the home.
So we're
losses.
6-2?
Yep.
Home to South Carolina. Woo, boy.
South Carolina's one. This is why we really wanted to get a South Carolina person.
Is Lenore Sellers what everybody – Is he what everybody thinks he is, or is he getting a little bit too much hype?
Randy says not for me. I will never pick Auburn to beat Georgia. Yeah, I don't know about with Sellers. You saw him some last year. The hype is definitely there, but South Carolina isn't being picked very high in a lot of circles, so it's kind of what do we believe in?
I'll tell you this, Georgia podcast, real quick. If Hugh doesn't beat Georgia and Bama this year, he's no longer the head coach at Auburn. I think Ole Miss gets Carolina. I think that's a spot. Ooh. However, man, this is where you can't just look at them individually. You're coming off 2 losses. How beat up are you? Where's your mentality at that point? And that's a game where if you're beat down and you got a guy like Dylan Stewart who's coming in with his hair on fire, the wheels can fall off that one real quick. That's a tricky one for Ole Miss. Mm. But I'm a Rebel, so I'm giving them a W.
There you go. It's funny. Whenever I say 10-2, people are like, which 2 games do you think they're going to lose? I'm like, I'm not picking 2. I'm just going to tell you this is what
I'm just telling you they're 10-2, but I can't tell you what losses because they're not going to lose those games. They're going to lose the ones I don't want them to.
Yeah. And I will never take, I'll just never take Auburn, period.
I'm not sold Jackson Arnold's overrated yet. He may be, but I'm not on that full bandwagon yet.
Yeah. There's been a lot of Oklahoma fans that are kind of against that too. All right, so you got it. 2 losses. We're gonna go against Jay Bake and say that you beat the Citadel.
Yeah, Jay Bake. I'm sorry. I think the Rebels pull the upset against the Citadel. I know those military institutions can get wily with the option, but I think the Rebels pull that one out.
Yeah.
So then you end up Florida and Mississippi State, right? So basically, the way you've set this schedule up, assuming that you're just going to trouncH Mississippi State.
Yeah,
the Florida game is to see if you make the playoffs or not.
Again. And I'll be honest, I think they do it. I think this is one of those weird-ass things, and I don't want to compare it because he wasn't Peyton Manning. And I actually heard this, and I want to steal it because I thought of it before they said it on the SEC network, and he got shot down quick by Roman Harper. But, Chris Doering said this. I was like, it's funny he said this because in a comparison – Dart was so good. Last year was the year that Ole Miss had all the talent. They were number 1 in scoring offense, number 1 in scoring defense. But the schedule still sets up the same this year. And if they can take advantage of it, your quarterback plays that good. Here's the thing. Everybody in SEC's got warts right now. There is no just dominant. And They definitely don't have the dominant on their schedule. Even looking at you, Georgia, I'm sorry. I'm not sold on Gunnar Stockton. I'll believe in Kirby's defense because it's always been great, but I've got questions that the defense has the teeth that it's had the last few years. So when you look at the schedule, again, like you said, great point, Herb. I think Ole Miss can pull a 10-2 in a year after and not be as good of a team as they were last year.
Right.
But because the way the schedule plays up and the way that the cookie crumbles, I could see the Rebels getting to 10-2 and sneaking their butt in the playoffs.
Yep. No, I do. I think it does set up that way. I could see it.
Homer tonight on these shows. Damn.
But see, we kind of encourage it though.
Yeah.
Whenever we have our people in here and you're a little hesitant. So we were on a show last night, and the host, Alabama guy, asked his co-host, LSU guy, to talk about LSU. 2 seconds into his answer, he's talking about Georgia to win the SEC. And we stopped him and said, wait a minute. We're asking you about your team. This is your time to talk. So we tell our guests the same thing. Talk about your team.
Talk about your team.
We had an Ohio State fan on there last year telling us they were going to go undefeated.
Should have.
And then this year, yeah. So, and I said, hey, man, go for it. You know, if that's your team, you talk about it. So
I even told my daughter, I've got the sneaky feeling last year was the year that they should have done it. It was a better team on paper, everything, all the crap, but it just didn't happen. So everybody's writing him off this year. So nobody, Ole Miss won't get the preseason love. They've got the question mark at quarterback replacing. This is the year Kiffin will sneak. Hell, he's won 10 games in the regular season at Ole Miss, so it's not that far-fetched of him doing it.
Yep.
And they're going to have – look, one of the problems a lot of people didn't notice, I mean, really pay attention, Kiffin's first couple of years at Ole Miss, they led the SEC in rushing in back-to-back years and then had Quinshon Judkins and running games. Quinshon Judkins did a number on Ole Miss that was bigger than people realized, not just from the leaving aspect, from the timing he left. When he left, Ole Miss was really in on Etienne out of Florida and very much thought they could have him, backed off of him because Judkins told them they were coming back. They made the deal or whatever, yada, yada. And then he backed out after the third deal was made. Ole Miss didn't have a running game at all. They went down to Florida and had a receiver running the ball. So, you know, I think he's going to have it. And it's so funny when he was at Alabama. I always remember the shirts for run the damn ball, Kiffin. Well, shit, he got Henry and learned that, hey, running does work. And his most successful offenses at Ole Miss were predicated off the run. He didn't have that last year. And that was one of the bigger holes that I think held Ole Miss back from those few games where they did win. So they've got the Diggs kid. I think they're going to be a little stouter at running game. So, yeah, you want me to be Homer. I can see this Ole Miss team going 10-2, even with the back-to-back losses at Norman and Athens.
Yeah. I could see anywhere from 10-2 to almost like 7-5.
Oh, yeah. If you told me I love a podcast that I listen to. It's the McCready Siskey Show, and he always brings up the football gods. If they came down and told you this or that, would you be surprised? If they came down and told me, hey, man, Ole Miss goes 7-5 this year, I'm like, yeah, I could see it. You know, I could see where that. And on the flip side, that hey, they make the playoffs and Austin Simmons becomes the next big thing in college football. I'd be like, yeah, I won't be shocked by that either.
Yeah.
Raj, what were you about to say? I'm sorry.
No, I was leaning more towards 9-3. I think Georgia, the losses will be Georgia, Oklahoma, and I'm going to take Florida. And that's if Lagway can stay healthy throughout the rest of the season. We'd like to see what he could do. So, 9-3, still pretty good season.
Yeah. I think it's all over the place. You won't really know until you really know Jaxon Simmons.
I think, and look, and I'm going to say a toss-up because I'm not just giving the Georgia game away. They've got their flaws. They can be beat on a given Saturday. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the loss came to Arkansas, if it came to LSU. I think there's several toss-ups on the Rebel schedule. South Carolina. Rod, you made a great point. If Lagway's healthy, everybody thought Florida, the wheels were just going to come off at the end of the season. But, hell, they got better in that stretch of madness. And that says something about his team's makeup and personality. So that Florida team could be hell on wheels playing for a playoff berth by that time in the year.
Only thing that's always hurting Florida is their schedule. They always have a really, really brutal schedule, which is why, they usually end up in 8-5, maybe on the high end 9-4 this year. Again, if the team can stay healthy, but I know they have a good defensive line coming in. And the offensive line is supposed to be pretty good as well. So if they can get all those pieces around Lagway to support him, Florida can have a pretty good season.
They can.
We'll see. All right, a couple last ones before we let you questions of death. Jay Bake's actually picking South Alabama with the Jags to beat South Alabama to beat Auburn in Week 3. 30-28.
He said that on several different occasions, so I believe
he's not backed off that one.
And I'm going to give you this. I could see Hugh Freeze beating Georgia and in the same season also losing to the South Alabama Jaguars.
Oh my God.
That's one thing people forget, that the book on Freeze, he really wrote his career on 2 wins against Alabama, the one in Oxford and then one the next year in Tuscaloosa. Very few people want to look at the sandwich around that hamburger, that juicy hamburger Nick Saban meat, was losses to Memphis, 30-0 loss the next weekend after the win in Tuscaloosa in the swamp to Gaines, Florida. Hugh Freeze will win a big game and then just crap down his leg in the most insane game.
Yes.
If Jags were to beat Auburn, I'm getting shocked.
That would be hilarious.
Yep. This is an interesting one. There have been a lot of seller stories out there about how much he's been offered. And they keep saying that his dad keeps saying, that it's not about the money, but
bullshit.
That's a lot too, man. I mean,
I've seen it from several different things though. So
oh really? I didn't know about that, but were they doing this knowing that Cade Klubnik, was coming back? Like, I like Klubnik as a quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. So
I think he's one of the best in the country. And look, man, for all this Sellers hype, and he was great. He really was a spark plug, but there's still questions about how good of a thrower is he actually.
Yep,
yep. I got to see that.
Yep. What's up, Ephraim? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for joining us, Ephraim. We appreciate you, man.
And it's very specific. South Alabama with a walk-off field goal.
I mean, just straight up. If you call that, Jay Baker, you're gonna have to give me your number so I can get.
Yeah. Let us know, man. We'll be watching that part.
Yep. This is the Georgia fan, Auburn grad, can't lose that one. Yeah, I'm not picking Auburn. That'll be a fun, but I don't think I'm picking Auburn. Here's the question for you: do you think Lane should hand over play calling duties?
He claims he has and only has influence to Charlie Weiss Jr. and it pisses a lot of Ole Miss fans off. They're like, give him back to Lane. He claims he has. I don't believe he has. I believe he still has heavy influence in it, but Lane will. I don't know if he's lying or not. He'll tell you Charlie Weiss Jr. is calling the plays right now, and he's a very big fan of Charlie Weiss Jr.
Okay. He's Georgia, right. And they have been confident about Gunner. So that's interesting more than Michigan for sure. With Texas, that's always a fun one to talk about. Yep.
Yeah. Look, the thing with Georgia, they're getting the benefit of the doubt right now because of what Kirby's been able to do, what he's been able to create. And I say that in a positive, like they deserve the benefit of the doubt. It's the Saban benefit of the doubt. But man, if you're looking with a skeptical eye, there's just, there were holes there. Again, Ole Miss was able to catch you in 1 year.
I agree. I like it. This is about Jackson Arnold.
Okay.
So, yeah.
He was a freshman throwing to his 5th, 6th, and 7th best receivers. He'll have Cam Coleman, the Singletary kid from Georgia Tech. Again, he may be a bust. I may be dead wrong on this kid, but he showed moxie at times too. Now, the one thing I think he holds on the ball too long, but a lot of freshmen do that. That was a problem Dart had that he had to work on. Kid was young. That 5,000. That's badass. I love it. Hey, I'm pulling for it. Look, and for the Georgia fans out there, I will be pulling for you when you play Auburn. Don't worry.
Oh yeah. I don't think Auburn gets it. I just don't know a world where I'd pick him. And it's like you said, Kirby's going to figure out,
And that's not Georgia's. I think Georgia's been the power. It's still the power of the SEC. Texas has yet to beat them. But I do. It's not as much a knock on Georgia as that. I think that's college football now. There's no more Alabama runs or what Georgia's done in the shorter snapshot. That's exactly what Bama did for 15 years. Georgia's done for the last 4. I don't think there's any more runs like that at all because. Here's the deal, man. You weren't better, Georgia, than all these other teams because your first 22 were better. You were better because 40 through 85 was better than the team you were playing. Now your 40 through 85 plays for the team you're playing.
Yeah.
And it's just
depth is gone.
It's completely, people didn't want it. People hate all this shit. It's brought parity. Like we get parity.
Yeah. Because it's like you don't have to fill out your whole team if you're one of the lesser guys. Get 3 or 4 guys in key spots.
But even
you might
in that
not win
parity,
the whole thing, but you can knock somebody off.
But even really in that parity, I think the programs like Georgia and Alabama, they're going right. Texas, they're going win that more than not. But they're just more gettable than they used to be.
Yeah. Yep. More landmines on your schedules, really, for those guys. So Brian's pushing back on the Jaxon Arnold thing.
He is. Man, even 5 stars don't just step on the field from day one. Even the quarterback position. At the quarterback position, that's. I've got my questions about Keelan he's 5-star being thrown in the fire right out of the gate. They didn't throw Tua in the fire right out of the gate. Bryce didn't get thrown in right out of the gate. They all. Yeah, again. I get he was a 5-star, but at some point, do we not recognize that his top, I've said it, I feel like I'm repeating it, but his top 4 receivers were out. So you're asking a freshman receiver to take 5, 6, 7, 8 receiver, go week in and week out with arguably the toughest schedule in the SEC and go be a 10-win guy. Oof. No. Again, he looked, and I guess it's because there was games like the Alabama game. I thought Arnold, the Ole Miss game, go back and watch the Ole Miss game. Ole Miss had one of the best defenses in the SEC, one of the best defenses in the country. Jaxon Arnold played like hell that day. He fought like a SOB that Saturday in Oxford. Maybe that's why I'm high on him. That was it. Maybe my biggest memory of Jaxon Arnold was he played his ass off in Oxford.
Maybe so. We were impressed by his toughness, maybe not his throwing, I guess, when he played us.
Well, he didn't have to throw the ball too much when he played us. So.
No, that
just kind of ran the same play over and over, and we just never could pick up on
it. And this one, we've talked about this a lot. Yeah, your depth is just gone. The guy that you had playing behind your major guy is just not there anymore. So that's what's kind of slowing down the bigger ones. And that problem, I know the ticket prices are up, but they're not coming down anytime soon. Like, people are still paying them.
No.
So
I will say this.
I don't know if I've ever heard Cat cuss before.
Me either. That's how angry she was watching that game.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to do because everybody's hopping on tickets, but the closer to game time, it seems like ticket prices do drop and get a little more reasonable.
Yeah.
They are pricing out the common fan, man. There ain't no doubt about that.
Yep. So I thought about driving up to this game, but there's no way I can afford to get into it. So.
Not doing that.
All right. We've reached the end. Couple questions. Yep. Raj, did you have one? I didn't even text you to see if you had one.
Yeah, I got it. I do have a question.
Okay.
So,
you want to start us off?
So in October, when y'all travel to Athens, and let's just say Austin Simmons has been having a great year so far, undefeated, etc. Let's just say something happens the night before the game or a couple days before the game, and he can't play. For whatever reason, maybe he can't play. What other SEC quarterback would you want to take to put in for Austin Simmons for the Georgia game?
That doesn't play for Ole Miss?
Right. Doesn't play for Ole Miss. You could choose anybody in the SEC.
Well, this almost seems like you put it on a tee for an Ole Miss fan, and his last name is Manning. Give me Arch.
Okay.
I'm gonna ride with that. I'm gonna ride with that pedigree all day long.
That's the reason I asked. I didn't know if it would be Arch. I didn't know if you would say Nussmeier or somebody else. So I was just trying to see where your head was at. Okay.
I like Nuss, and I think he would actually be really dangerous in Lane's offense. But no, man, I'm looking as much as the Manning spurn Ole Miss half the damn time. Apparently, I love that family, and it's not just the family. I believe the kid's going to be the real deal. I'd take Arch.
Okay.
And I'll say this though, let me see his health, because man, people are really not ignoring, or maybe they're not, the fact that Lagway hadn't picked up a football this offseason.
Yep.
But I did see, I've mentioned it now for the third time on this show that I was in the swamp last year. Well, one of the things I did watch was DJ Lagway. That kid's a freaking specimen, man.
Yep.
If he's healthy, Lagway's one that throw his name out there too. He'd probably be next Arch.
He could take them a long way.
Mm-hmm. A Lagway.
Oh gosh.
All right, we got a game. We're gonna give you work, play, live, ditch. Gonna give you 4 names. Okay, you got to pick one of them that you're gonna work with. 40 hours a work week, right? One, live. This person is your roommate. You got to see him all the time, right? Play. You and this person, y'all are going out Friday night to hang out. Ditch. When they call you, you let it go to voicemail.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. DK Metcalf, Eli Manning, Jaxon Dart, Deuce McAllister.
Oh my God, I got to ditch one of these. What was the first? DK, Eli,
DK Metcalf, Eli,
Dart,
Jaxon Dart,
and Deuce.
Yeah.
I'm gonna live with Eli because he's got the most money and we'll have the biggest house.
What if he's making you split it though? Because you're roommates.
I'm going to work with Jaxon Dart because I know that dude's going to work his ass off and be a warrior. I'm going to party with Deuce because Deuce was the damn man. And I've actually seen Deuce in throwing it down at the casino. And I'm going to ditch DK because I don't want, like, you don't want to be anywhere with DK Metcalf in that damn physique because the women will never look at you. You will have to see. I had a buddy in college that was really good.
You can get the leftovers,
and there's that thought. But I had a buddy in college who was really good looking, and all the girls would always come up to me and be like, "Hey, who's your buddy?" And it got to a point where it was like, "Well, he's gay." I'm sorry, I'm not meant to say that. And I thought that would help me out, and so DK would be that guy, like, oh man, you know, he likes other dudes. Yeah. Like, he don't even like you. So come to me. DK would be the one I ditch because he'd steal all the women. That dude is like, I look at him, I'm like, man, you sexy.
Yeah.
my problem is that body, and he's got the hair that's wild that makes him pop in the club. You don't want to go to a club with DK. He's gonna take all your women.
Yeah. But now you're his famous anger at you ditching him. You gotta worry about that now. So. Yeah. It's a balance.
So I don't that he's a freak. So yeah, Eli for the money, partying with my man Deuce, working with Dart, and I'm ditching the guy that's taking all my women's. I think okay, I like that. I usually don't like my answers. I like those answers. Partying with Eli. Now Eli threw down. So
yeah.
Yep. All right, last question, and we're gonna let you get out of here. Alabama and Ole Miss are playing for the national championship game.
Oh, wow.
You have 2 tickets.
It might happen one day.
You have 2 tickets, and you'll be at the 50-yard line. Okay? You cannot give up your ticket. You have to go. All right? There's contractual obligations. You're doing press junction tour. You have to be there. But the person you go with, you have to pick from this list. Okay? Herb or Rodg?
Oh, this is a trick question. I don't know which one of you are which, so I'm just going to say Rodgerick.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Like, I've called you, but that could be you, Herb. How many times have you been Rodg in my life?
Nope.
I'm just going to say Rodgerick and see which one shows up.
There's only one Rodgerick.
Wow.
Boy, is that a political back?
Betty, I appreciate you. You're always welcome back on the show. I appreciate you.
Well, that could be you too, Herb. I've called you Rodg.
Well, that's it actually could be. Does anybody want to make the SEC championship game anymore?
No.
What's
the reason to do that?
Every time we gave our prediction, we always say 10-2 and make the playoff. We never talk about the SEC championship game. Whether we make it or not, I don't care. I just want to get to the playoff.
Yeah. I hate that it's been so devalued at this point. But
they just need to do away with it.
That's what I think from. No loyalty at all.
Yeah.
You can't sit there. All right, Petty man.
Forfeit my ticket and give it to both of y'all.
No, that's
do you know how often that's the answer? Right. That's why I have to lock in the contractual obligation.
You have to lock in that I got to take
it. Yes,
y'all didn't know you're dealing with the one asshole that that spent several shows not getting the names right. So I'll just say the one and see which one of you show up.
Oh my goodness. Man, Petty, we appreciate you. Like you said, it was last minute. You jumped in for this, man. We seriously appreciate it. You helped us out tremendously. And it was a fun episode. I know people always want to talk a little Ole Miss stuff. What you got going on? Where can everybody find you? What's coming up next?
Oh man, Petty_Daniel on the Twitter's X. Catch me there. Give me some follows. I guess I need more of that. I need to be better at it. But man, I'm all over the Bama Standard Network. I'm here on Mondays with my man Gerald Smoke Dixon. If you don't know it, he is the bringer of controversy. We're there Mondays 6 Central, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and then I'm back with it on with the network on Tuesday nights. I'm with the main the flagship, the Bama Standard at 6 Central, 7 Eastern, and then usually it coincide. And I don't want to, I coincide on the show with these guys. Don't ditch these guys; they're the best. But I do the final whistle on Tuesday nights at 8:00. They are a good group of guys. That's the one good thing about YouTube, though. It doesn't go away. You don't have to watch it live. You can watch it on replay. So watch these guys and then tune in to the final whistle after, of course. And also one quick plug, man, if anybody wasn't on our earlier show, if y'all got a different crew, I know y'all do have different fans. We will be in Dothan. The Bama Standard will be in Dothan for the KJ Kevin Jackson ALS Foundation on July 10th and 11th. We'll be at Buffalo Wild Wings from 5 to 6 doing a live show. Going to be Derek Lassick, George Teague, Nick Fairley, Jake Coker. The list goes on and on. There's going to be tons of guys there. Meet and greet, going to be a good time. Then a golf tournament next day. So if you're in the Dothan area, check out the Bama Standards coming to your city on July 10th.
Love it.
So, man, check us out. We're all over the place.
Awesome. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it. See, this is what other people do. Just give you the tickets to go. This is how everyone else tries to escape that one. So, because he answered it once and never again. And you have a new nickname, Petunia.
Where did Petunia come from?
I think she was typing Petty, and then maybe that auto typed in for her Petunia. So we'll rock with Petunia.
I've been called a lot of them. That's a new one. I kind of like it. All right. Kind of dig it.
And Randy, when we say last minute, we mean like the day before. But it still was last minute for us because we like to at least have these planned out a week in advance.
And Petty on Twitter, you're Petty_Daniel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Randy
was pops up Magruder, right? Is the name that it pops up.
Yeah, or look for Magruder. That's my middle name.
Oh, okay. I always wondered. Yep.
Once I was ashamed of, now I kind of like it. Yeah. The SEC.
Oh, he just gave that. Yep. Petty_Daniel.
All right.
Oh yeah, Petty_Daniel. Appreciate it, man, Georgia man. I like I said, and I love Ole Miss, I love Bama, but I like talking. If you haven't paid attention, I like talking all ball, man. I follow it all.
Yep. That's why we've been trying to get you on for a while.
I love y'all's, man. You guys are awesome. I want to say that. Thank y'all for having me, giving me the time to talk a little Ole Miss. Again, I'm a double agent here, and I don't ever usually just to get to let it out in my rebeldom. But more than anything, I love what you guys do, and I appreciate y'all having me.
No,
of course, man. We appreciate you.
The pleasure was all ours. All right, for Herb N Rodg Podcast, we will see most of y'all, I think, Saturday night, unless Rodg is on parent duty. 7:30, we'll throw a show together, bring a drink. If you want to pop in, have a drink with us on air, talk whatever comes up on the Unhinged show. And then next week, we're still trying to figure out what we'll have. So there'll be an announcement about that later. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you, Petty. Thank you for the comments. Comments always make the show. You guys make everything better, make it smoother. Everyone have a wonderful night. And as always, roll tide.
Roll tide.
Hottie.